Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. I'm Meha Bhardwaj Alter and this is Game On. In what is likely to divide the cricketing world, Sri Lankan all-rounder Angelo Mathews was timed out in a match against Bangladesh, which was the first instance of a batter being timed out in an international game. It has only happened 6 times in any format and all of it in first-class cricket. What a bizarre way to get out in a World Cup. Angelo Mathews was upset. I'm sure Sri Lankan fans would be upset, but Bangladesh are not complaining. Jamie Alter's here with me, as is Chetan Narula. Guys, welcome. This match has suddenly gotten very interesting. All those crazy scenes at the Kotla, we should have been there, but I'll come to you in just a bit. Let's explain this to all our viewers, what exactly happened. Angelo Mathews came into bat after Shakib had dismissed Sadira Samaravikrama, who had scored 41 off 42 balls. But he realized that the strap of his helmet was broken, which required him to call for a replacement. Shakib, in the meantime, decided to appeal. And according to the rules, the officials had to give Mathews out. Now, the rules state that the batter should be ready to face the ball within 3 minutes of the dismissal. And if the requirements are not met, he is timed out. The bowler does not get credit for the dismissal, just like a run-out incident. So, he did walk in on time, but he clearly got the broken helmet and he was given timed out. He tried to talk to Shakib, but Shakib did not withdraw his appeal and Mathews had to go back, clearly frustrated, angry with what had played out. Of course, social media is a buzz. People are talking about it. Was he out? Was it right to give him out? Let's find out then from both Chetan and Jamie on what their thoughts are. Let me start with Chetan on this one. This is as bizarre a way in which a batter can get out in a World Cup, especially. Your first reaction to this, and then we'll get into the details of, rules and versus the spirit of cricket. First reaction.
Well, Meha, my first reaction was Angelo Mathews has entered the quiz book. And I was just about to take a nap when this woke me up, so I haven't slept. So yeah, I think it was the most interesting bit for today's game. Look, like I said before, this game shouldn't really even be happening, but it is happening. So which is a travesty in itself. So yeah, my first reaction was Angelo Mathews into the quiz books. I'm not somebody who is a firm believer in spirit of the game. I think that's just a made-up concept by the English to suit themselves whenever it suits them, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, if Shakib felt that, I think Shakib is the main actor here.
Okay.
He appealed, and the umpires had to, uphold his appeal because of the rules. Angelo Mathews is at fault. I mean, it's not like he's the opening batsman who's coming out to bat. He knows that his number is up next. Whenever the next wicket falls, he has to go out and bat. So be ready with your kit. Yes, maybe by mistake he picked up the broken helmet or whatever it is. He should have stepped onto the field, informed Shakib, informed the umpires, and probably gone about it. But again, that's just a very black and white situation. If he explained it to Shakib, and Shakib even then decided, no, nothing doing, you're timed out, the umpires have no other way. So like I said, the main actor in Shakib, he did it, as per the rules, he did it. Whether he should have done it or not, again, I'm not going to dwell on it because, yeah, spirit of cricket is just that, just a phrase. That's it.
It's slightly different from the Johnny Bairstow dismissal, Jamie, in that, clearly, that was against the rules. Here it gets kind of murky. And why it gets kind of murky or, it creates doubt in your mind is because Angelo Mathews did walk out in time. So he was there. He was there. He was required. The batter is required to be there, ready to face the delivery. It just so happened that once he had walked out, he realized that helmet was broken. So should that have been considered? Maybe Shakib should have been slightly more, what would you say, magnanimous in this approach and say, what, yeah, okay, he came on time, but his helmet's broken. It's a genuine mistake.
Look, I mean, there is enough reason, enough evidence to suggest that, yes, he could. I'm just wondering, how much of the bad blood between these two teams was behind Shakib's decision. You know, he's been arrogant at times. He's pushed boundaries. Maybe if this whole Nagin dance and certain other over-the-top exchanges between these two teams had not taken place, maybe he would not have done this. I don't know how many other captains would have done it. I don't think many would have gone with it. Probably after Mathews and the on-field umpires met and had a word, like we saw visuals today, probably some other captain would have perhaps withdrawn it. But that said, I agree with Chetan that this is a professional cricketer. Angelo Mathews is one of the slowest people to arrive at the crease. Yes, you're right, he did get there, but he has a certain laid-back way of getting there. I think that sort of didn't entirely sit well with me. I'm not saying he did it intentionally, but this is a man who's been playing cricket since 2009. He should have had a look. He's had enough time, like Chetan said. He should have had a look at the helmet. I found that a rather flimsy excuse. Angelo Mathews has every right to walk off, pissed off, furious, throw the helmet down. That's fine. But as easy as Shakib has been painted here as the villain, I mean, what was Angelo Mathews thinking? I mean, you should, at this level, we at our very basic club level, we check every single thing twice before going out. So I'm going to go with Chetan here on this one and say, why wasn't Angelo Mathews more prepared? Don't be surprised if someone like Shakib Al Hasan, because like I said, he's one guy who's going to do his best to get under your skin, So you knew Shakib's out there. There's bad blood. Just be a little smarter, Angelo. That's my take on this.
Now, this is, if you just see, commentators, neutral commentators, where Waqar Yunus thought that this was against the spirit of the game. Ramiz Raja said so, because he said that, you should have just allowed him. This just is not good for the game. So, keeping that in mind, I don't know. I still feel that, I know the rivalry bit that Jamie mentioned, I still feel like Shakib Al Hasan could have been more gracious in the way, he should have just not appealed, or at least once Angelo Mathews went and explained it to him, withdrawn his appeal. Chetan?
I mean, Waqar Yunus saying it is against the spirit of the game, that's a bit rich, with all the reverse swing Pakistan has generated over the last 3 decades. No, I mean, like I said, there's nothing called spirit of the game. It's just a phrase that is made up. It is used when it suits you. It's not used when it doesn't suit you. It's used a lot by the English, both cricketers and the media. I read a tweet. It made me laugh. They said an English batsman should have been timed out. They would have had something to discuss during the World Cup. It would have kept them busy. They'll still be busy because they are the stakeholders and the upholders of the spirit of the game. They will be very busy tonight. Like I said, it's something that people use that suits them. Angelo Mathews should have known better. Shakib Al Hasan probably, like you said, should have been magnanimous about it. Yeah. Listen to the helmet excuse and then decided. Perhaps he did. And like Jamie said, there's a lot of bad blood between these two sides. There's a proper rivalry there, and this was a game of one-upmanship. And just to add, there was nothing wrong with the Johnny Bester dismissal.
that I think we've established by now. But let's also take a look at what the law states, because we've been talking about it, laws of cricket versus spirit of cricket. So what does MCC's rule on timed out states? What does it say? The rule says that after the fall of a wicket or the retirement of a batter, the incoming batter must, unless time has been called, be ready to receive the ball, or for the other batter to be ready to receive the next ball within 3 minutes of the dismissal or retirement. If this requirement is not met, the incoming batter will be out, timed out. That's what it says. Then, in the event of an extended delay in which no batter comes to the wicket, the umpires shall adopt the procedure of Law 16.3, which is umpires avoiding a match. For the purposes of that law, the start of the action shall be taken as the expiry of the 3 minutes referred to above. And then the bowler does not get credit for the wicket. It is considered a run out. Now, very clearly stating there, in 3 minutes you should be ready to face the delivery. But I do feel like in the part where he's saying in the event of an extended delay in which no batter comes to the wicket, but the batter has come to the wicket. I know I'm just sort of hanging on to, bare minimum here, Chetan, in terms of, taking Angelo Mathews' side or playing, his lawyer. But if he says that, look, I've come, it's not that I wasn't ready, I'm here, this is an unforeseen circumstance, should that at least be accommodated?
Again, it just depends. What do you mean he's ready? Is he at the crease? Has he worn the helmet? Is he facing the bowler without the helmet? I think the ready bit will involve the helmet, with the lawyer and all of that jazz. It has everything to do with the helmet. Now, there are certain specifications about the helmet as well, because now they are supposed to have a rear guard, to protect the back of the head as well from the unfortunate incident that we have had in Australia. So there are certain specifications of the helmet as well. And his strap was broken, so it can't be held in place. So is he telling the umpires that, look, I didn't need the helmet, but I brought the helmet out? So I think that becomes a really important piece of evidence legally. And I don't think if he needs the helmet to be ready to face the next delivery, then according to the rule of the law, he was not ready, and as a professional cricketer, he should have known better. Again, yes, it is all, like I said, the main actor in this is Shakib, and he should have appealed to his good nature, which he did. Shakib probably, should have accepted it in good nature, because the helmet is broken, and it is a vital piece of equipment for any batter in world cricket. But it is what it is.
So the other thing being, Jamie, that, when you're about the Johnny Bairstow dismissal and the whole idea of backing out, you're trying to gain advantage. Here, there was no advantage being gained. And that's where I feel like I differ a little bit on this one, and I disagree. Because when you look at spirit of cricket, you look at, whether a particular player or your opposition's trying to gain advantage through some means that they shouldn't be. In this case, none of that was happening. You could have just waited a second extra, no?
Well, absolutely. Look, Johnny Bairstow is not going to find any sympathy from me. Angelo Mathews will find sympathy because, like you mentioned, he's not taking any unfair advantage. He's not really broken any rule. Look at the rule, right? MCC, which governs this great game, this sometimes idiotic and very confounding game when it comes to laws and technology. Let's be honest. They're saying it's 3 minutes. Why are they shaved off 1 minute for the World Cup? I mean, anyways, this World Cup, there's so many things wrong with it. Why have that 1 minute gap, right? The grace period. I have a problem with that. But again, Angelo Mathews, he should have known, okay, it was genuine oversight. He didn't notice. But anyways, just personally, had I been there, I would have known, look, this is Shakib Al Hasan. His nature, his past experience, it leaves no room to assume he's going to do anything, which is going to leave you not scratching it. He's done this, right? Just search hashtag Shakib Al Hasan in the last 3 hours. The amount of clips from the time he's broken stumps, all his antics from various leagues, especially in the various leagues he plays in Bangladesh. There's enough evidence to suggest that you don't want to give an inch to this man to do something that's going to provoke you, that's going to infuriate you, and that's going to really push the laws, So yes, there was no law broken. I'm just still surprised at the lack of awareness of Angelo Mathews. I did not actually watch the moment as it happened, but I've gone through the highlights because we're in an era where you can pinpoint your cursor to get to when it happened. Look at the way he's walking out. There is a bit of a lackadaisical approach from Angelo Mathews. I just think he had a brain freeze moment. He was not aware. But be aware of who you're up against, right?
Yeah.
Rohit Sharma wouldn't have done that. Pat Cummins wouldn't have done that. Shakib will do anything, especially against Sri Lanka, to give his team the edge. Just be a little aware, my friend. That's my...
Okay, so I can see the visuals. Now, I can see the visuals. I just saw it again. The thing is, he wore his helmet. It's not like he didn't wear his helmet. He wore his helmet. He was ready to face the delivery, only to realize the strap was broken. And I think that's where I've been harping on this and why I'm saying this. And Andy Zaltzman, cricket statistician, he makes a very valid point where he says a ball later, if he had faced one delivery, Jamie, a ball later, if that chin strap was broken and he'd called for a replacement, nothing would have happened. So what difference does it make? Aren't you then flouting rules? to your advantage? Isn't Shakib Al Hasan doing that? That's what I want to ask you, both of you. That had he faced one delivery here, and I can see the visuals, by the way. I just saw the visual.
Yeah.
He was wearing the helmet. It's not like he wasn't ready. He was ready only to realize that that chin strap is broken. And that's when he called for it. And Shakib Al Hasan, who's been seen in leagues breaking stumps and doing all kinds of unlawful things on the field, is then saying that, you know what, he's out according to the rules. So this is now gaining advantage in a strange and a bizarre way, because one ball later he could have just said, yeah, I need to change my helmet. Jamie, and then I'll come to Chetan.
Look, that's what I said. I gave you the example of Shakib Al Hasan, you know, so you should just be aware that here is, I mean, I'm going to use a slightly harsh term. This is a sneaky character, right? You've seen his antics. You've been there, you know, just be aware. But again, I mean, if Angelo Mathews has put the helmet on, it took him, what, those 2 minutes to get there to realize, yeah, oh, yahan pe strap kharab hai. I'm saying it was rather unprofessional of Angelo Mathews, the experienced former captain, to not have noticed something as vital as that. That's all I'm saying. I'm on his side. He has every reason to be infuriated, to be surprised, to be shocked, you know, and he, unfortunately, like Chetan said, his name will now go down in that quiz category. I'm against Shakib. Like Chetan, I don't have any time for this spirit of cricket. It is largely something brought up when an English player is on the wrong side of an apparent line. Shakib is the central player here. I would have called him back. I think we all would have called him back. You know, no. But again, Angelo Mathews, you're made to look somewhat silly when you don't notice something as vital in these days as a strap. You should have noticed this when I've worn helmets. We've all worn helmets at some point. First thing you do is, acha, mere chin pe aa raha hai. You should know this a long time ago. There are batsmen who sit with helmets on for whole innings waiting for their turn. Like Chetan said, he had so much time. If he put it on while walking down, you should have noticed that. It's a very tight, often uncomfortable experience. As when you were doing this, you should technically have seen this. So again, he didn't break any rule, but I just feel he's very, very sloppy, Angelo Mathews.
Okay, Chetan, do you have anything to say on this one? Because I genuinely feel that this is so bizarre. A ball later, after facing the next delivery, he could have called for a helmet.
True. Absolutely, he could have, and we see that a lot of times. And if I can take Virat Kohli's name here, he changes a helmet and a cap. He interchanges that whenever he's facing a spinner. If he can, he will not face a spinner with the helmet on. That's what Virat Kohli does. Once I sat through an entire day where he batted and batted and batted. I think it was when he was scoring a double hundred or 170 odd against England in Vizag. Every time a spinner came on, they were bowling one spin end and one pace end. And every over, he would change cap, helmet, cap, helmet, cap, helmet. So cricket allows for these bizarre things to happen. And which is why I've always believed that in situations like this, it should be the umpire's call. It should not be the opposition captain's call. But then again, can the on-field umpire police everything? Then that question arises. Then that debate starts. If you're saying here that ideally this should have been the umpire, monitoring whether he's ready for within 3 minutes, and whether there is an issue with a helmet strap or some sort of an equipment that he needs more than 3 minutes, it should be the umpire policing it and not the opposition captain appealing it. Similarly, when the batsman is backing out, he's backing up, in fact, out of the crease, gaining an advantage, it should be the umpire who should be keeping an eye on it, or even the third umpire from a television standpoint, that non-strikers should not be like they do police when the umpires are this one was a hilarious incident where Shakib was he was acting the diva. I think this was a Bangladesh local game. It was he was acting the diva. That he's done that a lot of times. So like Jamie said, you do not want to give him an inch. But again, my point is, like the umpires police when the runners run short, when the runners run short, the third umpire is monitoring that. Why can't they monitor when the non-striker is backing up? So all of these things, it opens a whole new debate if we go in that direction. As the rule stands today, Shakib chose to use it the way he did. Like I said, spirit of cricket is something that you use for your own benefit. We see the video, he's using that to his benefit there. He's using it to his benefit here today again. So yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, the other thing now, Charita Salanka, in the mid-innings interview, he was asked about this whole incident and he said, in my point of view, it's not good for spirit of cricket, but that's the rule of the game. Jamie, I want to ask you, what if the shoe was in the other foot?
Like I said, I don't see many other captains apart from Shakib Al Hasan going through with that decision. It probably would have been a non-issue for most captains. So again, I have to go back to, as your production team rightly put up at the right time, those graphics. That's just one example. There's enough. I think I mentioned it when we were discussing him going back for that personal break with his coach. I think he's been banned multiple times for sure. I don't know how many times, but he served 6-month ban, 12-month ban, at least once to my mind, for failing to reveal to the ICC approaches by bookies and the like. There's been times when discipline, he's said things, he's knocked down stumps here. I believe he caught a collar of someone one time and he gave it up for umpire. So the man's cricketing history, as let's not forget, Bangladesh's biggest cricket player of all time, and they haven't had too many icons. So I think Chetan mentioned that their superstar status is very different to what we see here in India. So against all that, someone who's willing to, as you may have put it, tweak the rules to his advantage, probably I'm willing to. I mean, I'm thinking in my mind of just the other 9 captains in this World Cup, because that's the most relevant. I don't see anyone going like that. And had Shakib been there, Angelo Mathews, he just threw his helmet down. Shakib, like Ricky Ponting, would have probably broken a TV in the dressing room. So yeah.
No, but the other thing is that in case this was more, so why is this rule been made? Why has this rule been made? This rule's been made so that you finish your stipulated number of overs in the right time, the right amount of time that's given to you, right? I would understand if that was getting impacted, if he was late by 7-8 minutes, or there's something that there was a huge delay, all of that. Here what we're looking at is something completely different, where he has come in knowing that he needs to be there in that amount of time, knowing that that changes nothing in the game. Absolutely nothing. It's not like Sri Lanka has gained any advantage with him coming with a broken helmet. There's absolutely nothing there other than Shakib Al Hasan just using the rules to his advantage in the wrong way, Chetan. I would understand if it was 7-8 minutes and they're an over behind or something like that. But maybe it's time to change this rule then.
Which is why I'm saying that such rules and such situations should be policed by the umpires on the field, or the third umpire or the fourth umpire. They're as it is not doing much on the field. I mean, yesterday we had this situation where who was bowled? I think Shubman Gill was bowled.
Yes.
And the ball, clipped the bails. The wicketkeeper's gloves were nowhere near the stumps. And they referred it to the third umpire for a stumping, whether it was stumped or whether he was bowled, whether the keeper's gloves hit the stumps. This should have been a straightforward decision from the square leg umpire. No, I saw the game, the ball hit the stumps, and that's it. That would have saved you time. So the umpires, half the time, aren't even doing their job. Maybe if you need more umpires, do it. Have 5 umpires, have 6 umpires. This is something that should have been policed by the umpires, and especially today. And why I say that, I should have highlighted this earlier as well. Today, the next batsman is allowed to stay indoors in the dressing room because of the pollution situation. Throughout this World Cup, the rules have been changed. Usually the batsmen are usually they are walking out of dressing rooms, climbing down, etc., etc. In this World Cup, dugouts have been created where the players next in have to be seated. That's been the case in the rules. They're allowed to sit there. They are asked to sit there. This time around, just for the pollution situation, the players today were said, stay indoors if you want to, if you like to. You can't. You don't have to sit in the dugout if you're batting next. So if that has been done, the umpires on the field could have been strict with Shakib and said, look, no, this is a genuine mistake that happened. We are not going to consider your appeal. But again, that would not have been as per the rules. So maybe they need to take a relook at it. MCC does it all the time after the incidents happen, which is the way to do it, obviously. But maybe they'll take a look at it. But there are just so many things, so many more things that the umpires should be doing on the field, and I don't think they do enough.
Gautam Gambhir is calling it absolutely pathetic what happened in Delhi today. There are others on social media. It's a buzz with people saying this is bad gamesmanship by Shakib Al Hasan. And Jimmy, you've got to also realize that Shakib Al Hasan, despite all the antiques on the field and off it, he does happen to be one of their greatest cricketers. And to think that, you know, you're going to be remembered for these incidents. I mean, at some point you've got to say, I need to grow up. I need to, you know, I need to have that statesman-like approach to life. You know, he's not a youngster anymore. He's captaining a side in a World Cup. Is that something that he should be thinking about at all instead of doing all of this?
It's very evident he's not thought about it at all doing his glorious international career, has it? Right? There's a reason why we're talking about all these past examples. Shakib Al Hasan, I've watched a lot of cricket, as have you, as has Chetan. There is no cricketer who thinks he's bigger than the game than Shakib Al Hasan. Like I said a few minutes ago, he has openly flouted rules. He's taunted. He's assaulted people virtually. He's not revealed bookie claims. This is the strangest cricketer of any era, because I have seen many arrogant players. Many have been faulted. Many have been found guilty for far serious crimes. But this man has never publicly, to my knowledge, apologized. He takes on the board president takes on. This is a very unique cricketer, and he's not one of their greatest players. He is statistically their greatest player. I know Tamim Iqbal has more runs, but this is an all-rounder who at some point in his career has been number one in their rankings across 3 formats, you know. But the amount of time, I mean, go and read what Muhammad Isam writes about him, you know, on cricket. He's very critical of the fact that this man thinks he's greater than anybody else. He probably thinks he's greater than, you know, the prime minister. He clearly has attitude problems with authority. So if he's not learned from his past mistakes, I don't see him doing it now. And what is his last cup? Is it their last World Cup match of this tournament? Do they have one more? We're not going to see Shakib Al Hasan ever play a World Cup again, you know. And here he is in probably last match or second last match, making an utter fool of himself one more time. So clearly this man thinks he's beyond any rule, any governance, which is very sad for a country, like I said, that doesn't have many sporting icons to really look up to.
Yeah, and I think at this point, as Chetan was also suggesting, that, you know, the umpires should weigh in and they should see whether, you know, it's the right way of how this rule is being used. And if they think it is not being used well, then they have the right to reject that appeal, because clearly this was a silly situation which Angelo Mathews was caught up in, and Shakib Al Hasan took full advantage of it. I'm also reading this on social media. I can't confirm it, but I am also reading this, that Angelo Mathews, in fact, had asked the umpire, and umpire himself had asked Shakib Al Hasan if he wanted to withdraw the appeal twice.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and he said no.
I saw that. Yeah.
And he said, no, I don't want to withdraw the appeal. I'm sure that's not the way you want to win this game, especially in a situation like this. So, yeah, it's gotten interesting, and we've not heard the last of it. There'll be a lot more people coming in and talking about this. And let me also, as we've been talking about this is very different from the Johnny Bairstow incident. This is very different from a, you know, batter backing up as the bowler is getting into his bowling action and coming into bowl. Very different there. A batter is clearly trying to gain advantage. Here, Angelo Mathews was doing nothing of that sort. So how right was he, or how right was Shakib Al Hasan in asking for an appeal and umpire giving it out? That's the other question. But yes, what happened in the match? The match went ahead as scheduled in world's most polluted city, and through the haze, the two teams traded blows to try and outdo the other. 5 batters made it to double figures, but only one, Charith Lanka. He made it to 50. Sizable partnerships were hard to come by for Sri Lanka, and for Bangladesh, both spin and pace brought dividends. But the moment that headlined this match, as we've been talking about, was that controversial decision. Angelo Mathews becoming the first player in international cricket to be timed out. Charith Lanka went on to score 100. Sri Lanka ended with 279. Is that enough? Let's find out from both Jamie and Chetan. Jamie?
I don't know. I mean, Bangladesh has been so abject and Sri Lanka have been so up and down. You want to believe that Sri Lanka have enough. How is this going to play out? I have no doubt that Shakib is going to get several earfuls whenever he comes to the crease. And let's see
Yeah.
how long it takes him to get to the crease as well. Just keep an eye on him. I think Sri Lanka have got this match in the bag. But
Yeah.
just watch the antics of Shakib Al Hasan. You said we've not heard the last of it. I think very, very soon we'll be seeing a bit more of it. And look, like I mentioned, there's a lot of bad blood between these two. We've seen the Nagin dance being the pinnacle of that bad blood.
Yeah.
But look at the times. Who's the bowler who came in? Tanzil Hassan. The amount of times, and again, I mean, Shakib Al Hasan, you've got this bowler coming on pretty early in the match. Where was the slip? I think he beat the bat a couple of times, and there were at least 3 edges from Nisanka, or was it Kusal Mendes, that went for fours. And this bowler playing his third or fourth match, he was already giving an earful to the batsman then. And the batsman said, you just go back to your mark. So the pot had been stirred, the water was boiling. It just needed one, like I said, one lapse of error from Angelo Mathews, and then Shakib was all over this match. So I think we're going to see a few spicy moments whenever Shakib comes out to bat.
This match has already gotten interesting because Sri Lanka would be charged up now. They'd be angry, and rightfully so. So you can expect them to be, aggressive on the field. Let's see how that pans out. But let's also talk about the semi-final scenario. Now, India and South Africa, they've finished 1 and 2 right now on the points table. These two are through to the semi-finals. But what about the other two teams? Who is likely to qualify? Can Pakistan be the team that plays India in the semi-finals? Are New Zealand in trouble, or can Australia be knocked out? Let's start with Pakistan first and how they can qualify. They'd need to beat England, and then ideally New Zealand should lose to Sri Lanka and Afghanistan to lose at least one more game. That way Pakistan's route is straightforward. If New Zealand win by 10 runs or off the last ball against Sri Lanka, Pakistan will need to get the better of England by around 135 runs. Good news is that they are playing after the New Zealand game, so they know exactly what to do. Also, basically what this means is that Pakistan need to win their last game by a big margin, even if New Zealand wins there. So if New Zealand lose, it's still straightforward. If New Zealand end up winning their game, Pakistan will need to win by a huge advantage for the net run rate to improve. If Afghanistan win both their remaining matches against Australia and South Africa, and Australia beat Bangladesh, both Pakistan and New Zealand will stand eliminated. So they will be out. Afghanistan is one team. They have their fate in their own hands. Okay, let's also talk about New Zealand. New Zealand have lost 4 games on the bounce and are in a bit of a trouble at the moment. The best way for them is that they win their last game against Sri Lanka and Pakistan lose their game and Afghanistan lose both their games. That's the best way for New Zealand to get through. Who would have thought that they'd need these kind of permutations and combinations to get in? Let's also talk about Australia. They're in a commanding position, as another victory will seal their berth. But in case they lose both their matches and they stay on 10 points, at least one of Pakistan and New Zealand win their final game, and then net run rate will come into play. So for Australia, they've got 10 points. They just want New Zealand and Pakistan to lose their games. If Australia don't end up winning their games, if they stay on 10 points. If they win, then of course it's a straightforward entry into the semi-finals. Afghanistan too. Let's also quickly talk about Afghanistan. If you can look at the bottom half of the table, Afghanistan have a simple route. They need to win both their games and they'll be through. They'll go through if both New Zealand and Pakistan lose their last 2 games. They can also go through if they win 1 game. But for that, there has to be other things that need to work out in their favor. So now we've given out the scenario, guys. How do you think that Pakistan can qualify, Jamie? Is that something that's possible given the match that they have left against England and New Zealand versus Sri Lanka? Because I think these two are competing for that one spot.
Very, very good chance, only because who are they playing in that final match? The worst team of the tournament. I mean, England cannot do a thing, They really should have beaten Australia because the target was nothing big, but they're so abject right now. I don't even think even Josh Butler has the strength to even come out for the toss. So this is a massive plus point for Pakistan that, again, their whole corner Tiger cliche. I don't know how every single World Cup we seem to watch this comes in, because here they are with a serious shot. I mean, New Zealand have really personally left me really, really disappointed. I know they've had injury problems, but Tom Latham, I mean, how many times were we giving credit for Tom Latham's captaincy, and that same guy has gone and made two absolute errors with at the toss. So I just don't see how this New Zealand team, despite having so much going for them, is going to beat Sri Lanka. Also, I was looking at the forecast in Bangalore. A lot of rain. So the rain factor hanging over that match at the Chinnaswamy, coupled with a good forecast for England versus Pakistan at Eden Gardens, and just seeing how awful England are, I actually see Pakistan, surprising me at least, and taking that fourth spot.
Yeah, but do you see, Chetan, New Zealand losing to Sri Lanka? Because that's another thing that Pakistan would want.
Not in a full game, and I don't think in a full game even Pakistan would have beaten New Zealand, like I've said before. So in a full game, New Zealand will win and beat Sri Lanka. It's just that rain possibility, and like Jamie said, I mean that's an ever increasing threat for New Zealand. So if that game is washed out, then it's absolutely, I mean, even now, I wouldn't say that, the game hasn't been played. So I would say it's advantage New Zealand. They have the points. They just need to beat Sri Lanka. If they win, even in a rain-truncated game, even if it's a 40-over game and New Zealand wins, it'll get plus run rate. It'll get 2 points. And then already Pakistan is trailing by run rate, and they will need to win in some way, in some situation, etc., to qualify, etc. So I think it's advantage New Zealand at the moment before a ball has been bowled. But the moment that game is rained off, then it becomes advantage Pakistan, because as Jamie said, they're facing the worst side in the tournament. Although I do believe that if there's one team that England can beat in this tournament, it is Pakistan. But I think we have two amazing games coming up with two teams fighting for that fourth spot. And, the host broadcaster will be praying it's Pakistan who qualifies, because guess where India will be playing its semi-final and who will be playing against if Pakistan is fourth and India is obviously first. It's an India-Pakistan semi-final at the Eden Gardens.
Yeah. Doesn't get bigger than this, doesn't get grander than this. They would want that. Who do you think India would want to play amongst the ones vying for that third and fourth spot? Jamie, anybody? Just whoever you want to play,
Very, very tough to read this Indian team, because they've just left everything out there on the field, be it batting so well and bowling so well. It's tough to say. I mean, I think India themselves would also be in a somewhat of a surprising place. Hey, we've beaten 8 teams. We're going to go into the semifinals 9-0. It's not a familiar position for India, as stacked as things have been in their favor. And I would like to believe that, especially in this Rohit Sharma, since the Asia Cup onwards, he probably doesn't really care about such things. And why should you, when you're literally steamrolling most of your opponents so far by massive margins? So I don't know. I mean, just because had they lost to someone, had they really been pushed, I mean, I suppose they maybe wouldn't want to face New Zealand, because that's a team which has got their number most of the time. And it's a very tricky team. You don't know what they do in knockouts. And despite being depleted, they are the team that got to the last 2 finals, as well as a T20 World Cup final, am I not mistaken, a couple of years ago. So when it comes to knockout matches, New Zealand are heads or leagues ahead of India. So maybe New Zealand, but again, I'm going to go with the fact that my positivity has really gone through the roof with this team. I think they'll be like, whoever it is, bring it on, because we are the best team in this tournament.
Chetan, do you think the same, or do you think that they'd prefer one over the other between New Zealand and Pakistan?
No, the confidence that is through the roof, as Jamie said, in that Indian dressing room, having beaten all the better sides in this tournament. They just have Netherlands up next. I don't think it's going to be any different. I'm looking at an early evening in Bangalore, once Netherlands has batted. I mean, from that perspective, I think it's going to be 9-0 heading into the semi-finals. I think this is an interesting question for the Indian cricket fans. Who would they want their team to be facing in that semi-final? If it's India-Pakistan, then you would say, okay, you know what? 9-0 in the tournament, 8-0 over Pakistan. and you're going into the World Cup again. And Eden Gardens, I was there last night, 70,000 fans. Pakistan are not going to have a chance. There's not going to be any Alexa play Dil Dil Pakistan. There's not going to be any of that. Mickey Arthur is going to be crying again. They will be looking for excuses. India-Pakistan is going to be a cakewalk route for India. I mean, for semi-final, I'm just talking from a fan's perspective. I think the fans will say, okay, you know what? This gives us a better chance. New Zealand, very smart team, very talented team. If they have a full strength side, they would want to do damage to India. They can do more damage to India than Pakistan.
Yeah.
Although I'm not saying that Pakistan can't beat India on its day, but in that sort of a setting where there are 70,000 fans all cheering for India, Pakistan would lose the mental battle. New Zealand would not lose that mental battle. So, yeah, I agree with Jamie there, and I think the Indian cricket fans will also agree as a whole that I think New Zealand would be a tougher side or a more challenging side. But let's wait for the Bengaluru rain gods to have their say.
Now I'm wondering, out of these teams that could qualify, who would want to meet India in the semi-finals?
Australia.
I don't think Australia would want to. Nobody. What's that?
No. Australia would want to. Knowing Australia, knowing the way they play their cricket, the professionalism they have, the way they go out and perform on the field, they'll say, okay, you know what? India steamrolled us in Chennai, and we were not performing at our best. Something happened during that rain break in Lucknow when Sri Lanka was steamrolling them. They were, 125 without loss? During that 10-minute rain break, something changed in that Australian dressing room, and they haven't been the same side that played in South Africa, that played ODIs in India, and that played those first two games. This is a very, very different Australian side. They'll say to themselves, look, we got steamrolled in Chennai. We have a chance to make it right. We have a chance to beat the hosts, the absolute favorites in this tournament. And if there is one team that would take up that challenge, that's Australia.
Yeah, I think if they've been given no choice, they'd want to take that up. I don't think they would want to face India in the semi-final. Maybe in the final, because of how good this team has been. I would agree with you 100% in any other tournament, any other year. But this time, I don't think even Australia would want to meet India in the semi-finals. None of them. They'd want to finish 2 and 3. Australia would be desperate right now to be finishing in that second and the third spot. They don't want to meet India. Nobody would, in their right mind, would want to meet India at the moment. But quickly, guys, we're 3 minutes away from wrapping this up. So let's talk about what your predictions are for this. Do you see? I want to see how Angelo Mathews bowls to Shakib al-Hasan when he comes in. That'll be interesting to see. Jamie, what are your predictions?
Look, I mean, things can be contrived very, very easily. Angelo Mathews could ask for the ball, or his captain could say, hey, you want a bowl when Shakib comes? He's had some success. Yeah. He took 2 wickets against England. It would not surprise me at all if he came on. And knowing Shakib's his character, I'll take this guy on. He's barely bowling 115. I'll hit him. Imagine he falls to Angelo Mathews. Perfect way for Mathews to end this match. His team will have taken a massive step towards Champions Trophy qualification. He will have had the final say. So I think Shakib's going to have a torrid time. See Kasun Ridita come back. Some short balls, some words. It's going to be fun. And I think it's the 28 for 1. So he'll be out. Unless, knowing Shakib, just like we saw that day, he also demotes himself and keeps coming out at number 7 or something, just to perhaps face some more tired bowlers. Anything is possible with Shakib al-Hasan.
Now, for all of those who are wondering if this ever happened in an international match, these two cricket nerds would know about it. But yes, it did happen. Someone did come close to being timed out, and it was none other than Sourav Ganguly in 2007 South Africa India Cape Town Test match. Do you remember it, guys? 7 to 8 minutes. Jamie, Chetan?
Yeah, I remember.
I can say I remember.
Let Chetan's go on. Yes.
Yeah, I remember something of that being said, and I think Greg Chappell was the coach at that time, and they were in South Africa at that time. So I obviously was very young, wasn't covering cricket, but I remember, and there was this whole story about how, I think something about his pads, if I remember, I'm not sure how I remember, but I do remember.
Yeah.
Greg.
I'll tell you. So this is
Yeah,
what
go
happened.
ahead.
In 2007, Saurav Ganguly came close to getting timed out. During the second innings of the match, India lost both its opening batsmen by the second ball of the second over. The usual number 4, which is Sachin Tendulkar, he couldn't enter the field owing to the time he had spent off the pitch during South Africa's innings on day 3.
Yeah.
So Indian team wasn't aware of that fact. On-field umpire Daryl Harper, he told them, he even asked the TV umpire to remind the Indian dressing room that Tendulkar wasn't allowed to enter the field, but the message was somehow never received. The situation led to chaos. VVS Lakshman was in the bathroom and Saurav Ganguly had no choice but to quickly change from his track suit into his whites to enter. Thankfully, at that point, who was the captain? I think Graham Smith. He did not appeal, and so he wasn't given out. But completely out of time. Chetan, quick prediction, and then we'll wrap this up.
Sri Lanka to win because of the whole, they'll be really boosted up, and I can't wait to watch Mathews bowl to Shakib.
What I want to see is that if Sri Lanka do win, will they, pay back with that Nagin dance? But thank you so much, Chetan and Jamie, for joining us here. That's it then on this special. News 9 Live is what you need to subscribe to for all the latest. For now, goodbye. Thanks for watching.